Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Africam show. Oh, we're starting off strong here at Twin Pan and Cylinder. We've got a beautiful croc. Hello there. Oh, it's almost like it's saying hello right back. Nice, and we've got some water thickneys in the background. I have a whole lot of hellos because we are live and interactive, so please continue to send through your questions and your comments. Jean Gale says, hello from the foothills near Seattle. Oh, the dogs are sleeping and you're drinking your coffee, waiting for the dawn. Jean Gale, every time you tell us this, it sounds so peaceful. I love it for you. Jen Lat says, good morning. Good morning, Jen. Casper That Go says, happy Tuesday, Trish. And you've got your hot coffee ready. Jan Powers is here as well. Hi, Jan. Nice to hear you. And MG Leopard Spot says, greeting from California, ready for the show with your ice water in hand. I have some spicy water, also known as sparkling water. Mindy, hi, Mindy. You say hello all, watching while on the treadmill again. Whoop, whoop. It's nice to get two things done at the same time. You learn and you exercise. Gordon J, you say, good morning all. Your mug is full of hot coffee and you can't wait to learn and see something new. Me too. I definitely can't wait to see something new. And that's the wonderful thing about the cameras, as I always say, is that you're always going to see something that piques your interest, something you haven't seen before, because every little slice, every little frame that we see through the cameras, there's something not obvious, something that suddenly pulls your attention. And that's one of my favorite things. There's always something new. Dear NC says, good morning, everyone from rainy Seattle. You're ready for the show with hot coffee and a donut today. Now, every time I think about coffee and donuts, I think about like cop movies or cop series. And it felt like such an American thing to me because, I mean, I've had a coffee and had a donut, but seldom do I ever have them together. And then I did. And I can totally understand how you can bribe policemen with that because that is a wonderful combination. Karu, you say hi, Trishana. Hi, Karu. Thanks for joining us. And it's him. It's Grumpy Old Man. Yes, it's me, Trishala. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to see that you're on time today, Grumpy Old Man. Asa Negro says, good morning, afternoon from 5 degrees Celsius, British Columbia. That is very cold. April Al says, good morning, everyone from sunny Connecticut. Looking forward to the show with your raspberry iced tea. Let's get into it. So before the show started, I was actually saying to Kirst, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today because it's been quite a busy day of meetings and a whole lot of things. But every single time this happens, the cameras they just work overtime for some reason. It's as if they know we all need a pick-me-up, a break from our screens and from just everyday, rat race stuff. I definitely know I need it. I always do. So if you joined us for Wild Moments last week, we were actually looking at, I did the show with Kelly, and we were looking at a water thickney that had gotten hold of a little mouse. And that was something that we don't often see because water thickneys being around the water, they're often going for invertebrates, little insects that live in and around the water, little worms, crabs, things like that are most easily accessible for them. And if we look at our bird books and our bird apps where we store all the information from scientists that have done work on specific birds, I actually hadn't come across small mammals being part of the diet for thickneys. But there we go, the cameras showed us otherwise. And it comes down to the opportunity, essentially. There's a constant toss-up happening in it might not even be a conscious thing. It might should be an instinctive thing of this trade-off between risk and reward. And so if something particularly risky comes along, maybe, for example, that little mouse that came along, if that mouse was not near the water and the water thickney had to kind of move through bushes and put itself in danger to get that mouse, it probably wouldn't have done it. But because the mouse is right near the edge of the water thickney had the opportunity to really weigh up what's happening here. Is the risk that big? Because this reward is really big. And it went for it. So a little bit of extra information for us, a little bit of naturalist's notes. And I'll never forget that because I've never come across that before. Bridget McKinney, you say hello. Hello, Bridget. Thanks for joining us. Grumpy old man, you say you have raisin toast and cranberry juice. Wow. I've only ever remembered one other time when you told us how you were enjoying the show, and that was when you told me you had a protein shake, which I'm still not sure if I believe. But thanks, grumpy old man. I wonder what the temperatures are like at the moment here. So I'm actually traveling to Kenya this weekend, and there is a lot of rain, a lot of rain. In fact, where the specific area where I'm going to shoot, it's part of it is flooded, and there's been some evacuations and things like that. So I'm hoping it all goes well. But you might have also seen on the cameras that there are a few places in East Africa where you might have seen quite a significant amount of rain. So Kirst has just told me now it's 27 degrees. It definitely looks hot and humid. And the croc is also letting us know that. Earlier, it was sitting with its mouth open just to wait for it to help cool itself down. And I thought I might have seen a little hiccup for a moment there. Now, I can't say I've... Was that a hiccup? Did you see that? No, that was not a hiccup. That is a crocodile getting slightly irritated at the flies that are crawling across its skin. Now there are tiny, tiny little muscles along the skin or just underneath the skin that help many animals to move the skin to get rid of predators. Oh, look at that! Look at that! What a gorgeous look inside the mouth. That I even said something wrong to you. Get rid of not predators, pests. So you might see it on a horse. Have you ever seen a horse sort of like jiggle the side of its body when there's flies nearby? Now that's thanks to tiny little muscles just underneath the skin that it can help to kind of shiver the skin. But it's not a shiver. A shiver is different. But the fast movement of that particular area can get rid of flying pests. And I think that's what we saw earlier when I thought that the crocodile had hiccuped. Man, wasn't that a gorgeous look? So you could almost sort of see the gula. That's the flap of skin at the back of the neck. Or back of the throat, I should say. So when I was explaining, it's 27 degrees. It's pretty warm, but I mean, to be honest, this is thriving temperature out in the bush. But that doesn't mean that the crocodile will not overheat a little bit, because there's a number of factors that come into play. Because remember, the crocodile is a reptile, so it's ectothermic or cold-blooded. But essentially, all that means is that it has a really tough time regulating its body temperature. And it has to do so through external measures. So unlike us, it can't do it internally. But that means that many things affect the body temperature as well. So if it has had a meal and it is busy digesting that meal, that's going to increase body temperature. If it has just gone through some activity, that's going to increase body temperature. If it's been sitting in a patch of sun, that as well. So even though 27 degrees, in my opinion, is pretty comfortable, I mean, it's the upper end of comfortable, but still pretty comfortable, These other factors may have just pushed that crocodile slightly higher, its body temperature slightly higher. And that's why it needed to open its mouth and help cool itself down. And the way that happens is by evaporative cooling. All that the tissues in the mouth are nice and thin and soft and wet. So if you've ever jumped out of the ocean on a really hot day, but then you're wet and there's this chill in the, or there's the air coming through and you get the wind chill, that's evaporative cooling. So because there's water on your skin, that water is going to start to evaporate. And as it evaporates, it's sort of, it's not exactly this way, but close enough in that it sort of pulls heat from the surface of your body as it moves and evaporates. Because remember, in order to evaporate, that water, that liquid, has to turn into a gas. So there needs to be a temperature change. And to assist this, so imagine that's happening in the crocodile's mouth, temperature's getting nice and cool, all the blood vessels are very close to the surface of the mouth or the surface of the skin in the mouth. So the cooler air or the evaporative cooling will cool down the blood as it flows through that area and then cool down the rest of the body. But now imagine you've got this beautiful gula at the back, that flap of skin in the back of the throat, and you can wave that around a little bit. And that even gives you a little more of a breeze and makes that evaporative cooling that much more effective with the help of the gula, which is why we call it gula fluttering. So when this crocodile opened up its mouth like that, you could see the back of the throat. You can see it was quite chunky. There was a lot of flap action happening there. MG leopard spots, you said you were wondering if they can feel flies on their tough skin. That is an excellent question. Because I sort of assumed that there must be some tactile sense in the skin, because that's a survival advantage, right? If something that is venomous is around your skin, you want to be able to know that something's crawling on you. But that being said, and especially you want to know if you're injured, right? Because if you're injured, that's going to be, you need to be aware of it, which is pretty much the purpose of pain. Pain doesn't do anything for us. Pain is a signal. It lets us know that something is wrong. And if something is wrong, we can attend to it. Because remember that if you were unconscious, you might experience loads of things that should be painful, but you're not experiencing it as pain because you're not conscious. So it's important that there is some tactile sense, even on this tough skin, to give them an idea of themselves. Now, the skin is very tough because remember that these scale-like plates around their skin that we call osteoderms, they are really thickened bits of skin with sort of little bony deposits in them. So it really is like an armor. But the undersides don't have the osteoderms. That's more traditional scaly. And around the face, they don't really have osteoderms. So I have a feeling that the crocodile was reacting. So we've already established there must be some sort of sense, tactile sense on the body, even though it is the skin is tough. But in certain spots it's not. And the flies were around the face. But I've also noticed that it's reacting to the flies mostly when it comes close to the eye. So maybe that's just a visual thing, like it can see the fly, or it's protection of the eyes. I must say that I always assumed that they wouldn't feel a whole lot, but that doesn't make sense. Grumpy old man, you say he's winking at us. Maybe. I definitely like to think that they are. This doesn't look like a very old crocodile. Yeah, obviously very difficult to age crocodiles, difficult to age reptiles in general. But the coloration is so vivid that I think it's still young. And also really hard to get an idea of size looking at the cameras, and this is something to give us a little bit of perspective close by. And I can't say that a water thickening is a whole lot of perspective, also because I can't tell the distance between them and the water thickening. But going by what I can see, still think that that's not a very big crocodile. I'd say maybe 2 meters. Maybe 1.5 to 2 meters. It is quite thick though, so it might be all about perspective. Anyway, let us head over to Mahali because I would love to see a giraffe. It has been a while. Oh, nice. I love this camera. It just always looks like a watercolor painting to me. The way that the branches droop over on the trees that we can see. This tip, it almost looks like the Lion King, you know. If you look at the acacias way at the back there, or virtually as they should say, it almost looks like watercolor blotting. Giraffes are having a good time. Oh, we spent a lot of time watching the giraffes last week, Tuesday, and just looking at their feeding habits. And it's something I can't get enough of. I'm always, if I'm with a giraffe, I love to watch them feed. I mean, they're the largest ruminant, right? So just off the bat, you're going to see lots of chewing, and you're going to see them chewing cud, which means that if you've ever watched any of the antelope chewing cud, you can actually see that ball of cud coming up their throat and then into their mouth and then chewing again and then going back down. And so the giraffe, the neck is so long. It's quite a show to see that ball of cud coming up through the neck and into their mouths. So that's the first thing that I watch for. The other thing is they can fill their cheeks up a bit, which I find very cute as they chew. And of course, as we discussed last week, the moving around from one bush to the other as the trees start to respond to being eaten as they release the chemicals into their leaves. Oh, on that note, so last week when we were talking about all this, Mike Fitz from explore.org, he sent me an article that he had been reading. Because remember, we were talking about the way that plants can perceive their environment and also have a proprioception, so a sense of self, what is up, what is down. And we spoke about the way gravity affects them, light, etc., etc. So Mike sent me this article, and it was such an interesting read. It was learning by association. And so if you think about learning by association, what that means is that you don't directly learn something. So you don't directly learn, if I press this button, I get food, but you learn by association. So I suppose the example that comes to mind is that, if you're behaving badly and your mother gives you the look and you're in public and you think to yourself, oh, sorry, the camera froze, everybody, but it's okay, we're back, it's Linda. So, your mom gives you the eye in public. She lets you know she's not happy with your behavior, and you might associate a hiding with that, right? So you get scared. So that's an association, and humans learn through association all the time. We learn that, oh, it's a sunny day today, maybe the ice cream truck will come around. Those are associations, they're not a direct reaction to something or a direct cause and effect, but an association. So I was reading this article that Mike sent, and in this article, the pea plants were put into a Y-shaped maze. And they, as we expect, plants will grow towards the light. So to test this associated learning, researchers put the light and like airflow from a fan. So then the plants, or after repeated exposure, the plants seem to associate the presence of that breeze from the fan with the light. And this is kind of groundbreaking stuff because that kind of learning has always kind of been associated with a nervous system, and a fairly advanced one. So now the plants had learned that if there's a breeze, there's likely to be light. So I'm going to grow in that direction, even though there was no light there. So very interesting article, and just speaks to everything that we were talking about last week about the senses of a plant, the way that they can respond to predators like giraffes, release chemicals not only to protect themselves, but to warn neighbors, the way they can shift resources and nutrients via mycelium networks to their kin. The way that they can perceive, like I said, proprioception, but perceive the environment and know exactly how to grow, what is up and what is down. So just another cool thing that plants can do. Learning by association. I always love to learn about cool little things like that. And please feel free to share any articles or cool facts that you might have come across with me and with us, because that's always worth a discussion, always worth a deep dive, and things are being discovered all the time. Anyway, we're at Tembe, sorry, Kirst. I'm getting carried away in my science. But we are at Tembe now, and we were actually just looking at the warthogs and impala at first. That's what was on camera, and then this elephant bull came through. Nice. Oh, it really has been raining in northern KwaZulu-Natal. Wow, all these elephant holes, as you guys call them, filled up. What you're witnessing here is also a type of succession. Because do you remember when those of you who have watched the cameras for a long time? Oh, we have some woolly-necked storks as well. Those of you who have watched the cameras for a long time, remember these holes used to be, like when they first started out, they used to be quite small, almost as if an elephant was just like a single elephant was digging. And then as seasons went through, water starts to collect in them. Then it's the perfect size for a warthog to go mud bathing and wallowing. And they get slightly wider, and then elephants come through and dig a little bit more. And now look at them, they almost look like mini pans. And now they're kind of a good size for a rhino to sit in. And if a rhino calls his buddy, then two rhinos sit in there, it gets a little bit wider. Before you know it, it's the right size for an adolescent elephant bull who's feeling a bit cranky after he's been pushed away from his natal herd and has to find his way in the wild on his own, feeling a bit sad for himself. Perfect size little wallow. And then it gets slightly bigger, and then eventually, maybe it meets the Tembe waterhole and becomes much bigger. And I always find it extremely interesting how when we think of succession, we usually associate succession with not the series, but at least most of us don't, or some of us. But I associate succession with grasses, with plants, with living things. But succession can also happen with these non-living things in space. And it all reminds me, just like the changing seasons, how the environment is constantly changing. And the way that animals adapt to it, like, these Arsenegri, you say it's nice to see all the little ponds. So these little ponds, they're just perfect for frogs. So maybe the population of frogs goes up because there's very suitable breeding conditions. But then maybe the population of, I don't know, what really doesn't like water? Not much, actually. Let's say, the population of giraffes go down here because the giraffes can't walk evenly on the surface. I'm making that up. That doesn't make sense. Giraffes would be perfectly fine walking here. But as the point I'm trying to make is that as the environment changes, whether it seems good or bad to us, it benefits somebody, benefits a species to the detriment of another. But those ups and downs is what creates diversity, is what drives change in populations. And you're witnessing it right here, just with what was just elephants digging holes to, as Osenegro says, little ponds. Oh, actually, a good example is if it's good for frogs, it's generally good for mosquitoes. So maybe mosquitoes start to breed here a lot more. It could mean that there are more outbreaks of malaria in the area, more of those Anopheles mosquitoes that are breeding, human population decline. So all these knock-on effects. But again, in a strictly ecological, biological, scientific perspective, it's neither good nor bad. It is just change. And to see that happening, ew, it's so special. I think being in the bush has definitely taught me that it's something doesn't have to be good or bad. And you don't have to have an opinion on whether it's good or bad. Sometimes things just are. And you are just an observer. And that's okay. I think at first, when I first got to the bush and first started working in nature, and with wildlife in general, actually, even when I was in the lab, I used to have strong opinions on this is bad, this is good. But ultimately, they were my opinions based on what I thought was best for something or some place. And being in the bush and seeing the way that animals adapt, seeing the way the environment, so often the environment just takes control. Because remember that adaptations and evolution is driven by environmental change. And sometimes you can see it. You can just see the environment as totally, totally in control. And the first shocker, the first time you realize that there's no right or wrong, it just is that first time you see a predator that you absolutely love hunting and killing something else. And there's a bit of confusion. But you really like this impala too. Or you see two leopards that you really know well fight. But it's an important lesson, and definitely one that is that carries you through life. Oh yeah, you're going in for the mud. There's no way you're drinking that. In a way, I think, sorry, I'm just, okay, we'll be quiet for you, buddy. I love these sounds. I I laughed just before this elephant got into the water because when I said to Kirst, I said at the beginning of the show or just before, I said, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today." And I said, "Can we just talk about feelings instead? Because I have nothing to talk about." And it's kind of come full circle because what I was going to say to you is that the I find it so peaceful in the bush, regardless of what happens and what goes on between different species you may like, different individuals you may like. No matter what, because you give up this need to like pick a favorite or to have an opinion on some kind of, I don't know, morality of an animal. You give that up and it's very, very peaceful. Even if you're looking at something that might be a little bit scary or shocking. Now, did you see how he stopped and waited there for a moment? With his one leg out of the water and on the ground, his front left leg. That pause was just a touch longer than a normal pause, like this one, just like half a second normal longer than an average. Oh, I'm waiting for something. So this, when I feel that amount of time, then I know there's maybe he's picking up on some communication. Oh, and how smart are you? Look at how clever that is. He's dragging more mud into the water. So the water is not clean enough to drink, but not muddy enough for him. Oh, I would love it if he just gets in, gets on his side and rolls around. There we go. There's the pause again. So this made me wonder if those long wave, low frequency sounds that we know that elephants communicate with, if he can easily pick them up in water as well. And I can't see why not. There are definitely some pauses that seem like he's listening to something, but I think that he's also trying to find a solution. Yes, Arsenegro, exactly. He's trying to make more mud and we were just talking about this waterhole succession, and he's literally making it bigger right in front of us. You didn't get your face or your sides very well. I think you need to get into the water. Oh, come on. You know you want to. You're sort of bending. I wonder if it's going to try another water little pond, or are we giving up? Or maybe we're just done. Is it just me or does that elephant seem to have a very long tail? Jack DeBoer, you say that's what you call a mud bath. Absolutely. That was like a metal mud bath. That was intensity. That was um showing us like a great demonstration of what we were talking about earlier. That was a show. That was amazing. But now, as this elephant hides its best assets from us, let us head over to Vic Falls Safari Lodge, where I haven't been to that camp in a while. Nice, we've got some warties. Looks like a sow and her two piglets, wartlets, three actually. Very nice, and of course, almost very gone. Ah, we've got two adults. So with warthogs, they don't remain in family units. So males will only really associate with females if she is an estrus, if they're around a similar resource, a resource that they both want. Uh, Occasionally may move about with a family, but it's not like it's not hard and fast. No structured family unit, but males tend to wander. But a unit that or not a unit, a group that we often see is a few females, a few adult females, maybe two or three, and their offspring. And every now and then, maybe an adult male coming in there just to check things out, Check the females out. Is that smell recently gave birth or I'm ready to mate? But I think we have two mums here. Might even be three. But I think I only saw four piglets at most. On average, warthog females will have about three young per litter, but they can have as many as eight, which is insane. And if you've ever seen, I can't say I've seen many tiny, like just a couple days old warthogs, but I saw one once and it was so small. And if I think about that one, I could imagine that maybe eight is not that unlikely. However, to take care of eight, to protect eight, constantly be watching eight, that's the tough bit. Having a little bit of a look around. Has anyone seen some interesting vultures on this camera recently? I know the usual suspects, but I mean, I know it's unlikely, but I always keep an eye out for maybe a bearded vulture, maybe an Egyptian vulture. I don't know. Always hold the hope, since we know that there's a high vulture population here. Amber Co, you say fascinating to watch this bull create more mud to his liking, right? It just tells you so much. One, that he has a preference, that he can identify this problem and a solution. Um, it's it just tells us so much. It tells us about personality almost. And you say it explains how these holes get bigger to meet their needs. Absolutely. Ah, and we have some vultures. Silhouetted. They are actually beautiful, beautiful creatures. They definitely get a bad rap. But like so many things, if you have a closer look at it, then you start to see the beauty. Now, this makes it very difficult to identify who we have, but if I was gonna guess, I would say it's probably a white-backed vulture based on the stance and mostly the size of the shape of the beak. See, it's sort of bulbous towards the end, so that takes out um, our hooded vultures. The necks look too short for any white-headed vulture or maybe even a lappet-faced. Well, beak is totally wrong for a lappet-faced. Lappet-faced vultures have a very thick, heavy beak. So I'd probably say white-headed vulture, white-backed vulture. Oh, a palm nut vulture has also been on my radar. I've never seen a palm nut vulture. I have seen an Egyptian vulture before, and I have seen a bearded vulture, just not like a bearded vulture I saw in the Drakensberg, where it was a rescue, and Egyptian vulture I saw in Spain. So I've never seen them here in a natural setting in Southern Africa. So I would love to see um, a bearded vulture and an Egyptian vulture in a natural setting. Palm nut vulture as well, although I feel like those are few and far between. But the chance is always there as per their distribution. Oh, Kirst is showing off, everyone. She doesn't show off often, so I'll accept it this time. She says, we get palm nut vultures in where she lives in, or where her family lives in Durban. So it's okay. Maybe we should go palm nut vulture hunting. As in to see them, I mean. There we go. Thank you. She says she'll invite me over. Bridget, you say vultures are so unique. They absolutely are. Their large wingspans, their adaptations, the gastric juices, the pH of those gastric juices that allow them to digest so much and fill an ecological niche that really not pretty much no other bird does. Maybe a marabou stork, in terms of the scavenging and what they can digest. But vultures have made themselves iconic. I think everyone in the world will what a vulture is. Their reputation might not be always a very positive one. There's so many myths and um, like negative associations with vultures, but they are iconic and memorable nonetheless. Maybe there's a lesson there too. You might not always have to be perfect to be iconic. You could also be a scavenger with really strong stomach acids and the ability to eject your stomach contents in self-defense. That's definitely going to keep you memorable, people. Anyway, it is time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us. It is always a pleasure. And I will see you on Thursday for Wild Moments. So please remember to join us. But for now, have a wonderful time wherever you are in the world. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.